Matt Rhule is tweaking. He's just tweaking. What is he talking about?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And it's now the #1 sports podcast network. Also, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long.
All right, welcome back on a Monday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you today. Welcome back from the weekend. We had some playoff games. They happened.
Did they entertain you?
They were predictable. They were football games that had stakes, and so they were entertaining in nature for periods of time throughout them. But
that's
not exactly. No,
that is what a description. I was entertained by the Oklahoma-Alabama game, by segments of the Texas A&M Miami game, and that would be it.
Yeah.
And we want to go to 16 or 24, so we can have like 2 weeks of James Madison getting its doors blown off and Oregon being mad because its backups didn't play well.
Yeah. If you think this past weekend was an example of why we should go to 16 or 24, then you got problems, man. I don't know what to do to help you. We don't need more teams in this stupid thing. We need less. But we're not going back. Anyway, we can talk about the playoff as we go on throughout the next couple weeks. This is a big day on Friday. Matt Rhule spoke with the local media for the final time in Lincoln before they head off to I guess they'll meet in Vegas after Christmas and get ready for the bowl game on New Year's Eve. Rhule was asked a variety of different questions, but as happens after the season, a month after the season ends, everything doesn't feel great. You're still sort of getting asked about which direction are we going? What's it been like over the last month? And Matt Rhule wasn't really having it on Friday. He bit back.
He did, and we'll get to that. I think there were two storylines that were the most notable to come out of Friday with Matt Rhule. Also heard from Riley Van Poppel, one of Matt Rhule's new pupils on the D line, and TJ Lateef, the quarterback who is working his way back to good health so he can run the Nebraska offense on New Year's Eve. But there were two storylines. There was the one about Matt Rhule and what he's and they're very related. What he's doing himself this month in bowl practice, and how Rhule believes that it was a mistake on his part not to have done this sooner and been more involved in the coaching aspect, the teaching aspect with the 2025 team. And then there was the entire conversation that drew more attention outside of Nebraska because of Matt Rhule's answer when he was asked about a program reset. But let's get first to this whole, because I think this is the one that actually impacts Nebraska football on the day-to-day. The other one is a little more salacious. But this one impacts Nebraska football if Matt Rhule is going to be down in the trenches and putting his hat on backwards with the defensive linemen, as he continues to do and left the door open to doing more of as 2026 arrives. So let's play this clip from Matt Rhule when he explains how he's just Matt now. Here he is.
You hear the term program reset. Is this a reset?
No, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I've never heard the term program reset. We're building. The program was dead for 10 years.
Got
we
the
went
right
to back-to-back bowl games. I don't know why everyone.
The wrong one.
Let's get the right one then. Here we go.
Of the day, I think the number one thing I have to do moving forward to do a better job than I did this year was coach more football. And so I will continue to find roles like this. Phil Simpson's doing a great job. He's had the edges. He's moved inside. Eckler and Roy have taken the edges, and Phil comes inside. He does such a great job with the players. But I'm out there at Indy. I'm out there at practice. I think as the head coach, I bring a freedom to those guys. I don't care if they mess up, but I do care if we're soft. We're going to be physical. We're going to be tough. And I think, I'm not Coach Rhule anymore. I'm just Matt. They're calling me Matt, and I'm coaching like that, and I'm going to move forward like that. And so having Jeep here, like Jeep and I met this morning, and Lonnie, and we went through the run game. Before I was a head coach, I was a pretty decent assistant, and especially on the lines. This year, obviously, when the lines don't play very well, as a leader, I didn't do my job. I didn't insert myself enough. And, going way back to when I was at Temple and Baylor, I always went down with the D-line for Indy and took a group. I didn't do that this year just for a lot of different dynamics, and that'll never happen again. So I take full responsibility for the lack of aggressiveness in terms of stopping the run, the lack of what happened in the red zone this year. And the only way to correct it, though, everyone wants to blame the players. I blame the coaches, and so I have to coach better. So I'll be way more involved as a D-line coach. The scheme, Rob's going to run the scheme, but I'll coach the D-line. I'll coach with the O-line when I can. I'll help Eckler with pods. Susan's going to run the program. Corey's going to run that stuff. Chris is going to run the nutrition. I'm going to be more involved in the football stuff.
Yeah, sorry about the wrong clip. I was just going to let it go, but that wouldn't have been.
They're all intertwined. They're all intertwined.
We'll get to that later. So he's just Matt. Puts the hat on backwards, and he's Matt. And Riley Van Poppel is calling him Matt later on in the press conference. This is kind of gimmicky. This is a little bit odd. But at the end, at the core of it is Matt Rhule getting his hands dirty, and he wants to get involved with the defensive linemen like he has previously in his coaching career. After he swung completely the opposite direction this year in going full on CEO, like he's doing a podcast. And I don't know that we have clarity as to whether that kind of stuff is going to stop and he's just going to, he's going to lean more into the coaching, or if he's going to juggle all of that in 2026. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know that he has decided.
To be clear, this is the right way. This is the way to go. And okay.
It's hard to disagree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but the problem is we're 3 years through and we've seen what we've seen as fans at this point, and you're just like, well, all right, what's this really going to do? And all these different things. And he's just coming to this realization now, like, why did it have to be like this for the last couple of years? Well, hopefully, in theory, it helps you get more physical on the defensive line. But I'm not even talking about that. Like Matt Rhule, if he was trying to point himself in the direction of being the CEO, but very clearly he can't help himself. Mm-hmm. He can't help himself but to really get in the nitty gritty and have his imprint on everything. And so, trusting coaches to coach is one thing, but he clearly has a way he wants it done. And so he gets back in there and gets to really do it in the absence of a defensive line coach this bowl season. And we'll see what happens going forward. But I do think this is the right use of him if they feel like everything else is cinched up.
Yeah, you're right. There are some coaches who are meant to be CEOs, and I think Rhule is good at a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
but he also needs to be involved because, as you said, he's going to do it either way. Like he's going to find a way to insert himself into the minutia of Nebraska football. So you might as well make that part of the plan. Like you might as well go out to practice knowing you're going to do that instead of we could say, and this is a negative connotation, but meddling or micromanaging. And I think Rhule would be the first to say that he is a micromanager at times.
The thing for me is I just wish they would have done
not really meddling if it's your program, by the way.
The thing for me is I just wish they would have done the football part first. They've been sitting around trying to make Nebraska cool and flashy and whatever. He's sitting in there with a cow and all the stuff over the last couple of years and trying to change the image of the program and You'll hear him say later the program was dead for 10 years and we had to do all these different things. No. The reason why Cignetti worked, and he mentioned Cignetti, he mentioned Indiana, like, hey, it hasn't worked as fast as Indiana. They did the football part. Like, they did the football part first. All the rest of the stuff hasn't fallen into place really yet. And they've gone to the playoff twice in a row and lost 2 games over the past 2 seasons. They got the football right. Like, they got the football right instantly. And so they just, maybe this is a good place to start, but make no mistake about it. This is why people are saying it's a reset because it's a different approach. You'll hear
that and the fact that your quarterback's in the portal and you fired your defensive coordinator and your offensive line coach.
Right. Exactly. All that adds up, doesn't it?
So what does this mean for the coaching of the defensive line moving forward? Because it seems like there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to Nebraska's D-line. And that's something that the Nebraska wants to avoid. I think part of the issue with Nebraska and why it has gone the direction that it has under Matt Rhule is because they're trying to do a lot of things and they have a lot of resources and a lot of options. And sometimes you just try to do everything instead of doing everything in a more simplistic, proper, correct way. So Matt is coaching the defensive line. Nebraska is not going to get Elijah Robinson. He's going back to Texas A&M. That thing's been off the rails for Nebraska for a while now. Roy Manning has been introduced as the ends coach, the edges coach for Nebraska. They still have Phil Simpson, who is working with the tackles alongside Rhule. I'm not sure exactly what Simpson's role is with the linemen moving forward. If they're going to hire, he said like additional moves, plural. And we won't hold him to that, but there's more coming with this staff. I don't think he intends to fire anyone, and they want to keep Phil Simpson because of his connections to South Florida, but it's very much up in the air what the defensive line coaching situation looks like and how much Matt Rhule is involved with that and whether Rob Orich is the one picking that, the defensive coordinator picking that spot after the bowl game, or how it's all going to come together.
That's what it sounded like to me, that Orich was going to kind of take a look and they'll put their heads together and sort of make a decision.
You have enough people now. But
right.
I don't think they have them all in the right place.
Exactly. There needs to be some shuffling. And so that's part of what the bowl game gives you. You can actually practice football and then play a football game and then evaluate some things and then make some decisions partly based off of that. So that's probably a good thing. They'll figure it out. I don't expect many or any like splash hires or anything like that. Those are kind of out the window. They'll shuffle and organize the staff whichever way works for them.
Okay, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll get to the thing that had even more people talking on Friday. You heard part of that clip in the first segment. We'll play the entire thing when we come back.
But first, a word from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook, where the NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, suddenly everything feels a little bit different. You saw that if you watched the league on Sunday afternoon or even on Saturday evening as it pertains to that Bears-Packers game. With FanDuel, you could place bets as the action unfolds. Live bets, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment, every touchdown, even player props move, live spreads move, money lines adjust accordingly as the game goes along. So you could bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals. It's going to keep you more locked in to every single game. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, head to FanDuel.com, place those live NFL bets all season long. With FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. A little breaking news on this Monday morning. Maverick Noonan, the Elkhorn South product, third-year Husker, is going to enter the transfer portal after the Las Vegas Bowl. He's been injured and used in a limited role for Nebraska on the defensive side. Also, he plays the jack linebacker position, which is no longer a position in Rob Orich's 4-2-5 defense. So Maverick could have bulked up and played edge rusher, or he could have slimmed down and played linebacker, but probably the proper move for him with the defensive changes to look for a new program.
Yeah, another depth piece. Disappointing that he's a legacy and he's from here. But yeah, they'll move on.
Another example of a local player who was signed by Matt Rhule and just is not working out. I for the record, I do not believe that this means Nebraska should shy away from recruiting talent out of the state of Nebraska, but I think there has been a move in that direction, in part because of the way that things haven't worked out for players from Omaha and Lincoln over the first 3 years, and that's unfortunate. So anyway, different topic for a different day. We will get now to the big the big talker of Friday. Matt Rhule was asked a question and he answered it, and he got a little agitated at the podium. Here is that exchange.
You hear the term program reset. Is this a reset?
No, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I've never heard the term program reset. We're building. The program was dead for 10 years. We went to back-to-back bowl games. I don't know why why Nebraskans, we are moving forward. It's just not as fast as Indiana did it. And people ask me that all the time. I'm frustrated. But we did it a lot faster than some of the other teams that got hired at the same time did it. So we are just continuing to build. Coach Belichick told me years ago, it'll take you 3 years to get the right staff. So we're just, every year we're evolving. We're getting better. But program reset, I mean, I don't know why anyone would say that. Just maybe it makes people click on more things. I don't know, but man, we just won 7 games. Should it have been 9? Yes, it should have been 9. So I'm tweaking. I'm just tweaking, right? Tweaking. And the thing I hope everyone appreciates at least is I sit up here all the time. I say it's me. Now I have to make tough decisions. So when I fire a coach, I'm not saying it's his fault. What I'm saying is I have to just tweak this. We got to get better and better and better. So we won 5 the first year. We won 6 the second year. We won 7 the last year. We fell apart at the end of the year. We're not doing a good enough job at the end of the season. So we're going to look at everything. That's not a reset. That's just like a process of just growing and growing and growing and building and building and building. So.
Do you know what Bill Belichick did in his second year as the head coach of the New England Patriots?
No. Did he reset everything?
No, he won the Super Bowl. So I guess it takes you 3 years to get your staff right, but he won the Super Bowl in year 2. And that was his second head coaching job in the NFL. I don't know what all of that was. There was definitely some frustration there for sure. I wasn't at the press conference on Friday because I was in Kansas City from Thursday until late Sunday night to cover the Nebraska-less volleyball Final Four, won by Texas A&M, by the way. Congrats to Trev Alberts and the Aggies, who proved to be the best team in the country after their momentum-grabbing victory at Nebraska a week earlier. But so I started getting some texts and other messages in other forums after Rhule's noontime conversation with the media on Friday, and it was like, what is going on with him? Like, is there something wrong that we don't know about? If you're just tuning in to Nebraska and you haven't heard much since the Iowa game or the Penn State game or the USC game, and you hear that, it was a bit alarming.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's my takeaway from this as well. I think he's right. Like you could make the argument, hey, this is just part of the process. With that being said, I mean, they have, if you look from when he started a few years ago, it looks quite a lot different, so maybe 4 straight off seasons of tweaking or 3 straight off seasons of tweaking, all of a sudden you look like a different program when you wake up 3 or 4 years later. But that's beside the point. He's right. Like they're just trying to find the right combo and they're trying to figure everything out. But his reaction is noteworthy and the way he's sort of reacted to this idea of the questioning of what's going on here and what are you doing and what direction are you going? And, they've picked a whole bunch of different paths over the
legitimate question.
It absolutely 100% is. And, I don't know that they've settled on exactly what they want. I think it's a little schizophrenic in that way, and that they're bouncing one way or the other. And and we're trying to be this, and we're also trying to be this, and we're trying to look like this, but we're trying to be this, and it's a little confusing at times. And that's why questions like that come up, and he's frustrated about it.
Not because I'm in the business of making content, whether here or in the written form at The Athletic, but the suggestion that this talk about whether it's a reset or not, or what's going on at Nebraska here is being done because it generates clicks is
Crazy.
That's laughable.
Crazy.
So like no. It's
nobody wants to click on that. Nobody wants to. Everyone wants to click on. Oh wait, the program's good and they won 9 games this year. Click. That's what they'll do.
Yeah, and I get that negativity sells, but Nebraska just gave up 77 points in its last 2 games and lost to teams that it's played much closer during this dead period that apparently existed for Nebraska in the 10 years before Matt Rhule arrived. So there is reason to wonder what's going on and to ask that question.
The head coach saying the program was dead for 10 years. That's pretty salacious. That's pretty clickbaity. If that was a headline, people would click on it. Right. So I don't know.
He's got a podcast too. He could ask that question on the podcast. He could say the program was dead for 10 years before I got here. And that would be news. That would be news to the fans who watched Nebraska beat Michigan, Penn State, and Georgia in 2013. The win against Miami in 2014. Everyone who was there would really be surprised to hear that the program was dead, or that when Nebraska beat number 6 Michigan State in 2015, the program is dead, or when it beat Oregon in 2016, or when it was ranked in the top 10 for much of October in 2016, or even that night in 2018 when Scott Frost came out on the field and the place was electric before the thunderstorm came in. Things didn't feel too dead at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get his point, but I haven't heard that from him. I didn't know that. That's a bit of a change of heart from what we heard at first, and what we heard any of the last 3 years. That's my big takeaway from that.
He's taking the gloves off when it comes to what they inherited. Yeah, which is fine.
Mean, it's weird that it's weird that gets said going into year 4. But that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. It shows, I think, that he's feeling some pressure, and that's very understandable when the season ended the way that it did. So I think we can probably leave it at that. He remains hyper aware of the things that are being said about his team and who he believes are saying them or what the context is.
Far too aware.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's take a break. We have more from Matt Rhule coming up next.
A word right now from Game Time. There is nothing like college football season or the college football postseason as it is right now. There's tailgates, still got them, packed stadiums, and you can be right there in the middle of it all with the energy, the bands, the moments that you remember forever. But actually getting tickets to go to those games, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, prices that jump at checkout. But with Game Time, the advantage goes back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from buying tickets to having those tickets in your wallet in just minutes. I love being able to see the view from my seat before I buy. You know exactly what you're getting. Zone deals, those stand out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and then you save more money. And knowing the price, including all of the fees up front, makes the process stress-free. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today.
All right, welcome back. We'll let Matt Rhule continue here on the everything was messed up thing, and we'll have for their comments on it. Here is Matt Rhule on Friday.
People's frustrations and things like that. But if anyone ever just understood what we walked into, they'd be like amazed at what we've done behind the scenes. And so I had to do a lot of that stuff because someone else didn't do it. I shouldn't have had to do it. Some people take over programs, they don't have to do that. We had to do a lot of stuff. And so now I get to be more involved with the football. And I think we made some great hires. I think we'll make a couple more great hires. And I think we'll continue to make progress. I don't know that it'll ever be as fast as everyone wants. Someone's going to lose the game tonight. Someone's going to lose the playoff game tonight, and that fan base is going to be frustrated. And so it just is what it is, and I appreciate that. I love it. I'm just trying to do what Coach Hoyberg did, man. Just keep building and building and building. And so, but I do think, Sam, coaching football for me is a big part of this. And I did what I had to do for the first couple of years to get a lot of things where they are. But between Susan and Haven and Courtney and Troy, like that stuff's all built now, right? Pat Stewart, the addition of Pat Stewart has been so beneficial. Like there's so much stuff that he gets done that, I was doing before. So I can now go back to kind of this.
I think you made a great point earlier. You did, Connor, in saying that it's okay for him to say some of this stuff, go down this road about what he inherited at Nebraska from Scott Frost and Mickey Joseph, but it's a change. It's a big change. Yeah. And maybe he just chose to take, well, he did. He chose to take the high road early in his time in Nebraska in talking about how set up things were for him and his staff and the job that his predecessors did. I understand that, but he's made quite a 180 here, and going to the point now to say, if everyone just knew how bad it was before we got here, you'd be amazed at the great work we've done. It's just kind of jarring to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And then the comparison, I find the comparison to Fred Hoiberg interesting. I mean, that's the hot guy of the week here. Of the month, of the year, obviously. Is
12-0 after Sunday night.
Yeah, people will be asking, okay, is there any lessons that Nebraska football could take from Nebraska basketball? Which is an awesome question in here late in 2025. But I would say this to Matt Rhule: that is a complete misrepresentation of what Fred Hoiberg did. Fred Hoiberg completely reset his program after sucking for 4 straight years at Nebraska.
He did a reset.
They got older, they got stronger, they got way more defensive minded, and that is when they started rolling. That was in 2022, 2023, when guys like Sam Griesel came in and Emmanuel Bandamel and Jawan Gary, and then Sam Hoiberg was starting his career at that time. There was a complete 180 from what they were doing in his first 3 seasons at Nebraska. Complete. I mean, it was an absolute reset, and so that's not what happened with Fred Hoiberg. It wasn't just building and building and building. They haven't built anything for what they have been over the last 4 years off of what they did the first 3 years. They've built nothing off of that. It all started in 2022, 2023. And, some of that is just him going through the process and like figuring it out. Like that point is valid, I think. And I think there's a lot of that we don't probably talk about with football coaches enough or coaches enough. Like sometimes you just got to go through it a couple times and feel it out and figure it out. And that's okay to admit, like that's fine. And I think there's a little bit of that, of course, with Rhule too.
It should be said in this age of college sports that Nebraska basketball operates in a different world than Nebraska football does. Yeah. Fred Hoiberg is accomplishing more with less at this point. His program and the resources, I'm talking about NIL and revenue sharing, devoted to it, rank in the bottom third of the bottom quarter of the Big Ten. And that is not at all what Matt Rhule is facing as the Nebraska football coach. It is not what Nebraska wants him to face as the Nebraska football coach. It wants to be a program that puts him in the top third or the top quarter of the league as far as the resources that he had. So there are things that you can model after what Fred Hoiberg has done, but you just laid out one that is not apples to apples in the sense that Hoiberg did a reset, that he did undertake a reset. And I'm telling you that the challenges that Nebraska basketball faces are much different and in some ways much greater, in many ways much greater than what Nebraska football faces. Hoiberg won fewer than 30% of his games through the first 114 that he coached at Nebraska. That's just the stat that was out there in recent days. 30 and 84.
Or 30 and 84,
30, yeah.
Whatever it was.
And 34 and 80. And then he went on a streak at the end of his team went on a streak at the end of his fourth season, and they've taken off and they've run with it from there. But like, that isn't the model for Matt Rhule. He didn't have that kind of a runway. And, I think he's seeing some of the ramifications of that now as the the stress sets in when you're 7-5 at the end of year 3.
Yeah, I go back to and a lot of what he's talked about from this big picture program perspective over the last several years, right? Hey, we got to get the NIL right and the facilities and all those different things, and he certainly put his fingerprint on all of that stuff. But you can have here's a way where Fred Hoiberg and Nebraska basketball is comparable, because they have found a way, as you said, Mitch, to have success without a $20 million roster. They understand that they have to do it that way a little bit, and they make what they do is they play a style and they make the basketball really good, right? So they're old and they're together, and they've built, like, this group has come up for now in a 2 or 2.5 year stretch to result in what this is right now, adding transfers out of the transfer portal. Like, that's the idea. That's what I thought Rhule was going to be at first. And then something happened. I think you can connect it to one thing, but after year 1 going into year 2, things changed. And, you tell me what the difference was between year 1 and year 2, specifically who was playing quarterback. I think we got it. They moved,
I understood.
They started moving fast, and I think they tried to skip some steps, and now they're going back to square one, kind of, and that's why people think it's a reset.
Yeah, at the end of all of this, it's December, and these are just words. And Nebraska has games to play next year. It has a game to play next week, and we can get our underwear all in a bundle about the things that he says and the way that it comes off and what people's reactions are to all of this. But they much more important is what's actually happening in the program, not in the press conference. And if Matt Rhule feels that it's best for him to go and coach the D tackles, like, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think you agree with that.
Right,
like, that's good for him to get his hands dirty and, get up to your elbows in grease and get to it and get to work. And if it took a couple of years to figure out what the right mix was with the coaching staff, all right, well, here's your opportunity. But, it's just, this is off-season kind of stuff that gets people excited, and Nebraska put him out there at a press conference on December 19th, and he said what he said, and it drew some attention. Come next August, I don't know that it's going to matter all that much.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely big picture talking time. And then within all that, in a little over a week now, there will be placed a football game, which is interesting in and of itself, which we will talk about plenty throughout the week. All right, and then we have plenty more storylines from Friday that we didn't get to either. But yeah.
All right, so busy week ahead. We'll figure out how we're going to structure the pods this week. We might take Christmas off. Hope everybody enjoys their holiday time around friends and family. We will be here for several pods, probably at least 4 pods to give you, and then get into game week as Nebraska heads out to Las Vegas on Friday to prepare for the Utah Utes and the Las Vegas Bowl at Allegiant Stadium on New Year's Eve. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Nebraska. Be sure to join us tomorrow. As always, make sure you subscribe to and follow Locked On Nebraska so you get all the latest episodes. Find us on social media at LO Nebraska. That is on X. And if Locked On Nebraska made your Spotify Wrapped, prove it on social media to secure a free month of the brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag the National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform. They will drop you a code. For those of you on video, we're going to send you off right now to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And if you're on audio, make your second listen the Locked On College Football Show. Thank you for joining us today.